Hello, everybody. Just going to wait a couple of seconds here for people to get in the live if they would like to before we get started. Hope everybody is staying warm. I know temperatures are really dropping right now, and if you're supposed to get weather, I hope you stay safe as well. So starting off today, my name is Evelyn. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm an education and prevention specialist at Jana's Campaign, and this month we are debunking myths about domestic violence. A lot of times there are stereotypes or misconceptions that are talked about and are so widely known that people start to take it as fact. So we are here to set the record straight on a couple of things today because it's important to be properly informed, especially when you might be talking to others about the issue of domestic violence. Purple Chair Chats are live conversations instilling the knowledge, skills, and values necessary to prevent gender and relationship violence. We use these discussions to raise awareness, engage bystanders, promote healthy and respectful relationships, and just overall encourage the development of new social norms. Today we are going to be actively discussing domestic violence, relationship violence, and abuse, which I know can be a difficult topic and triggering for some people, so please do whatever you need to take care of yourself. If you are in need of resources or services, but you don't know who your local advocates are, please reach out to us, let us know. We will do our best to put you in contact with those right people to help you. And there will be resources, as always, in the description in the comment section of this live. The majority of information I'm using in today's content is from the Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence, womensaid.org, domesticshelters.org, the Domestic Violence Services Network, and Michelle McCormick at the Attorney General Office. Let's start talking about some myths. Myth number one is that the myth that domestic violence is unusual or doesn't happen often or it's not commonplace. The reality is that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience relationship violence in their lives. In fact, from 2003 to 2019, domestic violence accounted for nearly a quarter of all violent victimizations. Our second myth is that domestic violence is a private family matter. Historically, domestic violence was something that was kept secret or dealt with in private. It was not something that one interfered with. And this feeling still pervades in many cultures and mindsets, but the world in general has acknowledged the fact that this approach of dealing with it in private is damaging and dangerous. Victims should not have to deal with abuse on their own. Rather, they should feel the support of friends and the resources of the community behind them. Because abuse does not only affect the direct victims, right? It's a public problem with rippling emotional, financial, familial, and societal costs. Not to mention, it's illegal. On an individual level, it can be tricky to know when and how to intervene, though. Telling a friend or family member you suspect or maybe you know is being abused that you are just there for them, sharing resources with them, supporting their choices, those are all really good ways to start and know how to intervene. You know, we need to continue to shed light on domestic violence, not keep it in the shadows, and back up its unacceptability with laws, actions, societal change, all of those things. Another myth is that children who grow up in abusive homes will become abusers as adults. Studies have found that around 30% of children who witness domestic violence become abusive to their own partners as adults. And granted, that is an unfortunate percentage, but it is still the minority. Looking at it from the other side, 70% of children who witness domestic violence do not become abusers as adults. In fact, they are frequently committed to ending the cycle of abuse and really advocate actively against domestic violence and child abuse themselves. Now, I want to spend a little extra time today talking specifically about domestic violence around the holidays, since it is the holiday season, and there tends to be a general idea that domestic violence increases around the holidays. However, available research on such a link is still limited and inconclusive. Information on the number of calls received by the National Domestic Violence Hotline for the past 10 years actually indicates the number of calls drops dramatically during the holidays, including on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Now, that could be to the fact that people are just trying to keep it together during the holidays, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the violence itself has decreased or stopped, right? We know that. But most of the rest of the available information saying that domestic violence increases over the holidays continues to just be anecdotal or opinion pieces, reflecting the experiences of advocates at a particular shelter or law enforcement agencies in a specific community, so not really all-encompassing for the general population. While it is true that stresses tend to increase during the holidays, a lot of folks think that stress of the holidays causes an increased perpetration of domestic violence. However, the real root causes of perpetration are not caused by stress. It's a lot more complicated than that. Now, people who do use violence tend to blame their increased stress, but there has really never been a causal relationship established for this. Additionally, many communities experience increased social media and public attention to domestic violence during the holidays. The holidays are certainly an opportunity to increase public awareness that domestic violence does not stop during the holidays, and that the abuse and violence experienced by victims may be exacerbated, although again, not caused, by the financial stress and alcohol consumption that often accompany the holidays as well. So, if there are all these myths, right, what can we do to make sure we are getting and giving good, legitimate information? Today, when there are so many different ways we consume media and we get our information, it is really easy to fall victim to taking misconceptions as fact. But it is incredibly important to make sure the information you are talking about and that you are spreading around is sound, especially if you're trying to have a conversation or educate others, as we all should, about something like domestic violence. Anytime you read or you see something, before taking it as fact, do a bit of your own digging. Google that platform, that publication, that person's name to see if it is credible. You know, one thing I always think about is whether or not I would have cited a source I'm getting information from in a research paper when I was in college. And if the answer is no to that, I work on finding another more reputable source that confirms maybe what I read in another article. And try not to take single specific cases or one group's experience as applying to everybody and the general population. But all of this is to say, don't stop trying to talk about and spread awareness of domestic violence or gender and relationship violence. Even though there are myths, even though there are misconceptions out there, it is still so important that we have people who are willing to have these conversations and get the word out there. Because when people stop speaking up, or they become hesitant to share what they know, that is when we see this problem become so much worse. So keep talking and spreading the word and educating others. Just try to double check that the word you're spreading is good. I appreciate you joining me today to talk about myths and domestic violence. My hope is that maybe you heard a myth that you previously thought was fact and were able to change your perception on a few things. And again, it really shows the importance of accurate and reliable information when it comes to this, in a world where it seems like we have all the information ever to exist right at our fingertips all the time. It can be daunting, but it's our responsibility to talk about it, to educate others on it, and help people who we know are going through it to get to a place where they can have safe, healthy lives. As always, if you're in need of resources or services, please reach out to us. We'll put you in contact with the right people to help you. I want to say thank you so much, everyone. If you watch these regularly, if you watch these every month, we really appreciate it at Jana's Campaign. And if you're watching for the first time, we hope you continue to join us. I will keep doing these as the months go on. I hope everyone has a happy holiday and a really great new year. And we'll see you next time. Bye.